And we are now recording.
Hi, everyone. I am so happy that you were able to join us for our informational webinar. My name is Dr. Sneller, or Betsy Sneller, and my pronouns are she or they. So the way that this is going to work is I will give a very brief introduction to Michigan Diaries as a project, but then also to the REU, so Research Experience for Undergrads program that we're running this summer. You see a few more people here. We have the other faculty member that is running this project. So Dr. Wagner is here, as well as the graduate student mentors for this summer, and at least one undergraduate researcher to represent the voice of previous undergraduate researchers. It's going to be pretty short, and the purpose of that is that there's plenty of time for y'all to ask your questions. So we're going to reserve like at least half an hour for questions at the end. So I'm going to just get started here. And bear with me while I share just a portion of my screen. Okay, so this is the Summer Research Experience for Undergraduates info webinar for Michigan Diaries. The project itself is, we're a sociolinguistics project where we're collecting audio diaries from Michiganders. It started as collecting audio diaries during the COVID-19 pandemic, but it has since expanded to beyond the COVID-19 pandemic and just hearing about people's everyday lives. So the kinds of questions that we're really interested in finding out is things like, how do people tell the stories of their lives and their communities? Did the pandemic impact the way that people talk? And questions like, how have people's lives changed? How have they stayed the same? And to piggyback on how lives have changed, how has people's language changed or stayed the same as well? You can see here, I've got a screenshot of our website, which is our primary way that we interact with participants, our website and through emails. So the way that the project works for participants is 3 steps. In step 1, they sign up for the project and they tell us how involved they want to be. For the project, that means, do they want to be able to share, do they want us to be able to share their anonymized stories on our website? And do they want to receive $5 as a gift card in return for their audio diaries? Or do they want to pay it forward to another participant? This is something that we implemented early on, in part as a way to stretch our budget, but also in part as a way to allow participants to talk as much as they want without fearing that they're going to impact our budget. And this is just an interesting tidbit to me. Something like 60% of participants choose the pay it forward option, which is kind of a nice, we have such a good community of folks that are generous with their time and generous with sharing their lives with us. And then step 2 is they get an email. Participants get an email every week that is full of prompts, questions like, have you ever gotten stranded somewhere? How did you get home? What's the coolest animal you've seen in person? Where were you? And then we always like to send out at least one would you rather. Would you rather be a mad scientist or an artistic genius? And then step 3 is they open up, we have a mobile app. So they can open it up on their phone or on their iPad or whatever, and they record their answers and it comes to us on the back end. Every week we hear stories from dozens of diarists, and this has been happening since almost the very beginning of the pandemic here in the States. And then each week we pick 3 to 6 stories to feature anonymously in our public archives. So these are from participants who have selected that it's okay for us to feature their stories. Okay, but what about the research experience for undergraduates? What is it? The purpose of the REU experience is to give undergrads hands-on experience with sociolinguistic research. And specifically the purpose of the program from the NSF's perspective, this is the big grant funding agency that's funding the REU, is to expand access to research beyond just folks that are at big research universities. So that's part of our goal here too, as well, is to expand who can participate in sociolinguistic research. And part of the goal here is to prep students for possible future graduate work. It's especially helpful if you are thinking, hey, I think research is really interesting and exciting, but I'm not sure if the career in research is right for me. This is a great opportunity to spend 8 weeks doing research and finding out is this what I like? And it's a great opportunity to network and build connections with top researchers in sociolinguistics. And it's not just a one-way street. So we think about the REU experience, and actually anybody who's participating in our research, as a two-way street. So our huge team helps bring new ideas to our team and kind of livens up our ideas and the research that we're doing as well. Okay, so what do REU students actually do? There's sort of three prongs to this, and the first one is research. But what that means is, for instance, REU students will attend project meetings every week. So they'll learn about sociolinguistic research and help develop great prompts for us to send out. They'll also be attending meetings each week from each of our sub-teams. So our project has a bunch of different sub-teams that are focused on different aspects of the project, like listening to incoming diary entries to help select which stories get featured. But also REU students will go through responsible conduct of research training. They will help us with transcription of audio diaries. They'll help us with coding data that comes in. And crucially, they will work to develop their own research question. They will also help with participant outreach and recruitment. So this is kind of two branches of a similar thing. One is recruiting new participants to the project. And the other is, as a community-oriented research project, it is very important to us that we are continually finding ways to give back to the community. So we do this in our research design, but we also do this in our outreach events. We look for ways to put on events to help teach people what sociolinguistics is and what we're interested in. So this summer, we've got a couple things lined up. We've got Grandparents University, where kids and their grandparents come to Michigan State, and we teach them a little mini session about sociolinguistics. So that's the research side. There's also professional development and networking. So a major portion of this professional development is REU students conduct a small original research project. You will get support from your graduate student mentor and your faculty advisor. That's some of the folks here in this meeting. And it does not matter if you don't have research experience coming in. The whole purpose of this is for us to help you along every step of the way. Last year, our REU students did an amazing job, even students who came in with no research experience. So I'm going to give you a little highlight of some of the cool research that was done last summer. One of our REU students looked at how people in Michigan refer to the party that you hold after you graduate high school, whether you call it an open house or a grad party. And she found that actually there's kind of this geographic divide where on one side of the state they call it grad party, and on the other side of the state they call it an open house. And in Lansing, right in the middle of the state, we call it both. We had a student look at the cot-caught merger. This is a vowel merger in Michigan, and she did some acoustic analysis of some of our diarist pronunciations of cot and caught. We had a student look at how participants sign off their diary entries. Like when they're done recording, what do they say? Do they say anything at all? Do they say, "Thanks, Michigan Diaries"? Do they say goodbye? And she found that women signed off more often than men. Women addressed the research project. They called us Michigan Diaries on their sign off. But interestingly to me, both men and women thanked the research project with similar frequency. We had another student look at whether participants get less formal over time as they get familiar with the project. Do they kind of get more casual in their speech? And his findings suggest that, yeah, they do. And we have a student who is represented here with us today, who presented in person, who looked at, so these stories that we feature each week. She looked at whether, if we feature a diarist on their very first diary entry versus their second diary entry versus their third diary entry, are they more or less likely to continue participating in the project? And she found that the sweet spot is really the third diary entry. And that's the diary entry that is most likely to keep participants retained. So this is a super actually helpful answer for us as a project to have going forward. So it's just a little smattering of some of the research questions that have been done on this data to give you an idea of what we mean when we say original research project. We also have, Michigan State has a summer research opportunity program, which is separate to our REU program, but aligned with it. The good news for us is that that means that there's a bunch of professional development workshops that our students have the option of joining. So this is things like how to prepare for taking the GRE, how to write a cover letter, how to make a CV, really useful things if you are interested in applying to graduate school. And then there's optional social events like going to get ice cream, maybe going to a baseball game, which we did last summer with our in-person participants. Okay, so let's jump on to the practical info. You do not need previous research experience to apply, and you do not need to be a Michigan State student. I think I have a bullet point in a second that tells you need to be a US citizen or permanent resident. That's the only who is currently enrolled in an undergraduate program. So rising freshmen, as long as they're enrolled, are eligible. But if you graduate in May, you're no longer eligible to be an REU student. The work is 30 hours of work per week for 8 weeks. So this is starting June 5th and ending July 28th. And you'll receive a stipend of $600 per week. The payments come in 2 installments. So the first one is after the first 4 weeks, and the second one is after the second 4 weeks. So basically a monthly paycheck. Here we go. So applicants must be US citizens or permanent residents. This is just a restriction on the funding agency. I'm going to add a little asterisk here and say that if you're not eligible for REU, there are other ways to get involved with the project, beginning with a volunteer basis. So if you are not eligible for REU but still interested in hearing more, check out our website and reach out, and we can talk about ways that you might be able to get involved anyway. And like I said, the purpose of this program is to expand access to research. So we really strongly encourage applicants from underrepresented groups in the sciences, folks who are first-generation college students, and folks that attend colleges with otherwise limited research opportunities. So this is like if you go to a liberal arts school or if you go to a community college, we especially invite you to apply. Okay, so let's turn it over to the research team. We have a huge research team, some of whom are represented here. So we have the faculty advisors for the project. That's myself and Dr. Wagner. I am wondering if I should turn it over to y'all to introduce yourself. I'm going to do this whole slide, and then we'll go, as the slide is up, we'll go around. We've got 3 graduate student mentors again this summer. So Yongqing, Adam, and Jack, who are, as you saw, excellent mentors as their mentees produced very interesting research projects. And in this webinar, we have 2 undergraduate researchers represented. I think Caroline will be joining us in a little bit as she's able. This is just a small handful of the whole team. The team as a whole is actually a huge team of both undergraduates, graduates, faculty members, and high school youth interns. And this is a screenshot from our website, which I think is actually a little bit out of date. Our team is even bigger than this. So I'm going to turn it over to our graduate student, actually, Suzanne first. I'm going to turn it over to the other folks on this slide to briefly introduce yourself and your role in the project to everyone else. Starting with Suzanne.
Hi, I am Suzanne Wagner. I'm an associate professor of linguistics here at Michigan State University, and I'm the co-director of the sociolinguistics lab in the lab right now with some of our graduate mentors. And this is where most of the project activity will take place in the summer. And I'm the co-principal investigator for the Michigan Diaries project. So this means really that I do almost all of the things that Dr. Sneller also does, and it means that I'll be involved in most aspects of the project in the summer if you're here. So this includes everything that you just saw on the previous slides, the sub-teams, the recruitment, the selecting stories, doing the research and overseeing research. So I've got my eyes on almost all pieces of this project.
So let's turn it over to our graduate student mentors. If you guys could say your name, what your PhD student, and what roles you have in the project. So Yongqing, let's start with you.
Hi everyone, I'm Yongqing. I'm a fourth-year PhD student in the linguistic program at MSU. I mainly work in sociolinguistic, variation, and sound change, and I also work in phonetics, things related to sounds. In the MI Diary project, I mainly work with the story selection team. So this is a team where we get diaries from our participants, and we select every week little snippets of their stories and their experiences to be featured on our website as well as our other social media platforms. So this is a way to facilitate, in a way, some kind of a community and communication with our participant community as well as with other researchers.
I'm going to turn it over to Adam. Oh yeah, go for it.
Sorry. Hi, my name's Adam. I am a second-year PhD student in linguistics. I'm also mostly interested in sociophonetics and phonology, with a pretty big interest in language change and social meaning and how those two things interact. Over the past couple of years, I've been involved in a bunch of different aspects of the project and a bunch of different sub-teams, but I've had, I think, the biggest role in the transcription sub-team, where we basically check and make sure that our system is correctly transcribing things, and when things need to be fixed, we go in and fix them, so that we can have a nice, clean transcript of the recordings that we can then work with further.
Do you want me to take over? Or do you want to hand it off, Betsy? All right. I'm Jack Rechsteiner. I'm in my last year of my MA in linguistics here at MSU. I primarily focus on studying identity and gender. And for the project, I'm most involved with the transcription team that Adam just described, as well as our brand team, because with this being longitudinal remote project, we do a lot of work presenting ourselves and kind of maintaining an online and kind of marketable presence to keep our current participants and recruit new participants. I also work on the website team to go along with that. And we've started to get to the point where with our previous REU research students, the transcription team is technically part of the analysis team, which involves taking those corrected transcriptions and processing them, extracting demographic information about our participants, and kind of the real meaty stuff of sociolinguistic research.
Awesome, thank you. I'm going to add, there's one more team that wasn't talked about here, which is the recruitment and community team. And that's the team, I think all three of you have been also part of the recruitment and community team. And that's the team that focuses on both participant recruitment and the community outreach stuff that we talked about earlier. I'm going to turn it over to Anna as our undergrad representative.
Hi all, I'm Anna Vredevelt and I go to Calvin University, so small liberal arts university. And my role primarily in the project is working on the story selection team, where we go through on the back end of the app and listen to the diarists' audio diaries that they submitted, and with their permission, put up the anonymized versions with images up to send off to the website team to put up on the website.
And Anna, you've been an external member of our project for 2 years now, is that right?
Yes, I think this is the 2-year mark. So it's been a wonderful and big part of my journey. I think when I joined initially, I was not in linguistics at all. And I was just kind of had this interest in it. And I had heard about it, so I emailed Dr. Sneller or Suzanne and was like, hey, this sounds really interesting. I want to try. And they were so welcoming, and it actually ended up being the cause for my changing majors to linguistics. So it's been an incredible experience.
I actually didn't know that. That's so nice. So that could be you too. Okay, and I put here some, these are a little long, but quotes from last year's REU students to give you, this is from an exit survey we did with folks where we asked, what were you hoping to get out of this experience? Did you get that out of this experience? What did you take away? So that you can get a sense of what other people had to say. So this was anonymous, I don't know who said it, but one person said that they were hoping to gain more experience, and they were successful, that they feel better prepared to work in a lab and conduct research, and that doing their own small research project helped them along that trajectory. Another person said they were at first a little nervous to start the independent research part of things, but that the supportive and lovely group of people here made that process as smooth and enjoyable as possible, which is something that we do really work at, making sure that it's a very supportive, mentored environment for students coming in. Another person said that like getting to dip their toes into diverse aspects of the project was cool, that seeing the productivity and the shared efforts across all the teams in just 8 weeks was splendid. And another person said that seeing people's work-life balance was encouraging, and that it was a change from the structure that I'm used to, and they loved it, and it helped them feel how real and current the work that we're doing is. And that's partly because we have folks that are full-time on this project. The REU students are full-time members. We've got folks that are part-time on the project, and we've got people in different stages of their academic careers. And so it helps bring a lot of diversity to this. I see that Caroline just joined us, so I'm going to back up one screen. Sorry, Caroline, you had to miss everyone else's introductions of themselves, but I'm asking folks to say their name and what they're involved in the project. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Caroline. I'm an undergraduate here at MSU, and my role in the project is currently the project manager, but I've also worked in a lot of different aspects in the project in the past. But as project manager now, that means I oversee a lot of the day-to-day operations. I interact with participants and a lot of our team members.
So Caroline started as an undergraduate research assistant, and kind of grew into the project manager role, and now she's indispensable to us. We absolutely couldn't do the project without you. And there will be a chance in the Q&A period for y'all to specifically ask questions of Caroline and Anna as our undergrad representatives as well. Okay, so here's the nitty gritty. Applications are due Friday, February 24th by 5 p.m. So you have over a month to get your applications ready to go. And the way that you apply is you send a bunch of documents to our project email address, which is listed here and is also on the website. So if you are ever in doubt, go to our website page and get more information there. You will need to send us a statement of purpose, 1 page, single space, 12-point font. The purpose of a statement of purpose is to tell us about your short-term and long-term professional goals. In other words, why are you applying for this opportunity? How does it align with your goals, both short-term and long-term? And how has your academic background prepared you to benefit from this program? This is different from a personal statement, which is about you as a person. So this can include any challenges you've overcome in getting to or through college, any achievements or accomplishments you're really proud of, anything else in your personal background that prepares you for this opportunity. You should send us your university transcript. Unofficial is fine. Your resume or your CV. You don't have to do both. You can do one or the other. And 2 faculty letters of recommendation. This should be sent directly from your recommender to our email address. So ask your faculty, your professor, to send us the letter directly. It should not come from you. And we will do interviews with the finalist candidates in the first 2 weeks of March. So you should hear back from us sometime in the first couple weeks of March. Okay, now I am done presenting and I'm going to turn it over to y'all and say, what questions do you have for us? And I'm going to mute myself for like 60 seconds so that you all have time to type in think about your question and type it into the Q&A. Okay, it's been 60 seconds, so I'm going to start in. Please keep typing your questions into the Q&A as they come. So I'm going to answer this first one, which is, if you graduate in May but are interested in attending grad school, can you still apply? And the answer is no, not for this opportunity. You're not eligible, but you can still volunteer with the project and join us. A volunteer position comes to our project meetings Mondays from 5 to 6 p.m. They're scheduled at 5 to 6 p.m. so that our high school youth interns can join us as well. So you are absolutely eligible to join us as a volunteer, which can sometimes turn into a paid opportunity. I'm going to be upfront and say that we don't have a lot of paid opportunities for external researchers. So the joining as a volunteer is not necessarily a path to a paid position, but occasionally they have turned into paid positions. This next one, I'm going to answer what is the overall goal of the project? The overall goal of the project is it's kind of got this linguistics orientation and a social orientation. So from the linguistics side, the project was set up as a way to analyze language change in real time. How is language changing in Michigan? And that means all aspects of language. So how does the pronunciation change? How does the syntax, the structure of your sentences change? How do the words that you're choosing to use, how does your vocabulary change over time? And then there's the social side of things, which is to document this huge event in human history, the COVID-19 pandemic. That's the big side of things. But then the small side of things is just to document how daily life changes over the course of many years in Michigan. Suzanne, is there anything you think I should add to that?
You're unmuted. Yes, I'll just add two things. First of all, or three things. First of all, we're interested in how language changes over time in the community. That's our central goal. But because, as you've heard, we have some participants who've stayed with the project, in some cases for the entirety of the project so far, so multiple years, we are increasingly going to be able to look at how individuals' language changes over time as they grow older as well. So that's one point. A second point is that we have the more kind of humanities goal of documenting everyday life in Michigan at this moment in time. And we have a partnership with the Library of Michigan that will allow us to share our anonymized data with them. So it can be a resource for people in Michigan for the future as well, to learn about how people got through the pandemic, what happened after the pandemic, what's going on now. And then the final point, which I will put in the Q&A, I'll type it in, is that you can read a bit more about the goals of the project on our website under our research and publications tab. So there is not a lot there yet because our project has been in the massive, very concentrated data collection phase for the last year or so, but you can definitely read a bit more about it there. So I am just putting that in the chat now.
Awesome, thank you. I'm gonna go, I'm doing this, I'm picking them out of order. Somebody asked, if my resume or past jobs have nothing to do with the topic, am I less likely to be chosen? And the answer is a resounding no. It's actually a bonus to us if you come with different life experience. So if you took a gap year and worked at a coffee shop, that's actually very helpful for us. If you thought you might want to be a mechanic and you spent some years being a mechanic, that's awesome. If you worked at your local ice cream shop, that is helpful to us. So all of this life experience that you have brings different perspectives to the project, and it helps us to know what variety of things you've experienced. So not only are you not less likely to be chosen, you might even be more likely to be chosen. That's a bonus for us. I see that somebody asked if they would still be eligible for the program if they started university in September. So I'm assuming this means after the summer, they start in September. And the short answer is yes. Rising freshmen, so people who are coming into their freshman year, are eligible. The fine print on that is that you have to be enrolled by the time summer starts. So if you have any uncertainty about it, feel free to email the project email with your specific details, and we can work it out with you whether or not you would be eligible. But the short answer is I think yes, you would be eligible. Somebody asked if housing and meals are provided, and the answer to that is no, but there is a housing and meal plan that you can opt into. And I apologize, I thought that I made a slide about this, but I guess that I didn't. There is, we have actually reserved housing in Owen Hall, which is a res hall here on campus, for our REU students. And I think the weekly cost for that comes out to like $230 a week. So you would be receiving $600 a week as your stipend, and the housing costs $230. And Suzanne, can you give us info about the meal?
Yes. So we don't provide a meal plan that you can opt into, but what you can do is absolutely eat in the cafeteria. What we will arrange is for all of our REU students to have a special affiliate ID, and you should be able to load that with meals that you then swipe in the cafeteria. So you can absolutely eat on campus. There are lots of off-campus dining options as well that are very close both to the lab and to where you'll be staying. So I also put this in the chat. There's more information about that on our webpage about the REU. And at the bottom, if you scroll all the way down, there are some FAQs, and one of them is similar to your question about the housing and the meals.
And does Owen Hall have a kitchen in it? Do you know?
If I remember, there are shared kitchens in Owen. It's a little hard to give you this information precisely for the following reason. Last semester, MSU suspended all of its official on-campus summer programs. So campus wasn't operating last year in its usual fashion, and some kitchens were closed, some cafeterias were closed. So I think the best answer we can give you at this point is keep watching our website as we update that information, as we get more information from residential programs here on campus about what they'll be offering. And if you have specific questions, and especially if you have special dietary needs that you are worried about accommodating, I can tell you from last year's experience that we managed very capably to help someone with very restricted diet. So we should be able to handle more or less anything that you ask. We just don't have all that information just yet because we don't have it from MSU yet, but we should have that fairly soon.
Thank you. There's two questions here that I'm going to kind of tackle together. So one is a person who's asking that they might have a difficult time making it physically to the socio lab. Is there any way to accommodate that if they make it through the application process? We also have a question, were there any aspects of the REU program that previous participants struggled with? And these are actually related. So we asked that question on our exit survey, and for the most part, people either said, no, I was scaffolded into this research very well. But the one thing that we did here was, so last year we had 5 REU students, and 2 joined us in person and 3 joined us remotely. And the remote students said that that was difficult for them because it was harder to form a cohort with the other REU students, and it was a little harder to both find motivation to do work asynchronously, and just they didn't feel like they got the full experience. This summer, we are defaulting to an in-person REU experience. So we are expecting students to be in person. There's a little asterisk on that as well, that a lot of the work that we do can be done remotely. So if you need to be remote, that's something that we can talk about as part of the application process. It won't impact your actual application, but we will be asking for details about how it might work, how it might look for you. So I'll say we are defaulting to saying that this summer is going to be an in-person REU experience, unless you have extenuating circumstances that we can work through together. Okay, so now we've got a couple questions about the application documents. Somebody is asking, should the statement of purpose be written in a formal style, or would a more informal style be acceptable? And I'm hesitating here because what I really want out of the statement of purpose is the information. So I want you to deliver the information in a way that makes the most sense. But I will say to you that being clear in your writing is part of delivering that information, and it's going to impact how we receive the documents and whether we think you would be a good fit for the program. So this is not me saying it has to be super formal and like rigid, but it does help convey to us that you're serious about this project and serious about this experience if you are very clear. It doesn't mean that you have to get like very florally, flowery with your language or like over the top, but it should be very clear. Suzanne, is there anything that I should add to that?
No, I think you've struck the right note there. I think on the one hand, we're sociolinguists. This is a sociolinguistics lab, and this is a project that encourages its participants, our diarists, to talk as they would normally talk, right? We want to hear the way that people normally communicate. We also know that there are entire dissertations, for example, by doctoral students that have been written in African-American language, and they're excellent pieces of academic work. But the most important thing, as Betsy just said, is that they are clear. So I would encourage you not to worry about formality, but to be as to bring seriousness of purpose to your writing, as Betsy said, and to make us understand who you are, why you want to join us, and not overly worry about small technicalities, but think about how you're getting your message across. So yes, I think Betsy said it just right there. We're not looking for something that's overly rigid or flowery, but maximally clear. And sometimes the best writing is quite simple writing.
Oh, I thought of another thing that I didn't put in the slideshow, which is sometimes different institutions have their own summer funding that can basically sponsor a student to do research in a program like this. If your university or your institution has that kind of funding available, please let us know. That won't get you into the program, but it might help us be able to expand the actual cohort. So the REU experience, like we're still gonna interview the top candidates. But if you are able to secure your own funding, please let us know that, because we have limited number of spots. And for us, the more people actually, the bigger the cohort, the better the experience. So please let us know that. Somebody asked how many students are accepted into the program per year. We have funding for 2 students every year, but we are occasionally able to find additional pockets of funding. So like, for instance, last year, the money that was earmarked for undergraduate researchers throughout the school year, we didn't use up as quickly as we expected. And so we were able to offer 3 full-time positions, 1 part-time position, and 1 student came with their own funding. So we were able to expand the cohort to 5. So this year we are expecting to be able to offer between 3 and maybe 4 spots. Somebody is asking, how does the project take in information from multilingual and multicultural participants and communities? And this is something that we are very interested in as a project. Most of our diary entries are in English, but it's not a requirement of the project. So participants can choose to participate in any language they feel most comfortable in. And we have done some work in the past, especially trying to recruit participants specifically through the Refugee Center here in Lansing. But if multilingualism and multiculturalism is a specific interest of yours, let us know that in your application materials, because that's something that we would also be interested in, recruiting more multicultural participants and thinking about research with folks like that. Jack.
Yeah, and I would chime in here with prompt creation and the analysis team and stuff. We definitely have a focus on bringing in information from multicultural participants. Like, I know we make it a point to not just ask questions about like Anglo-centric holidays, but we'll send out questions asking about Diwali and other things like that. And we definitely get submissions from multicultural participants. So we are getting that information in. It's just like Betsy mentioned, the sort of analyses that we've done with it just haven't happened yet.
Yeah, thank you, Jack. I'm going to say this out loud for anybody who, in case anybody missed it in the Q&A. Somebody asked if the letters of recommendations have to be from faculty or professors, and the answer is they don't. So if you scroll down to the FAQs on our website, you'll see this answer as well. What we're looking for is letters from supervisors that can speak to qualities that would make you a great candidate for this position. So we say it's best if at least one of your recommenders is a professor who can talk about your academic background, your intellectual curiosity, and your experience or ability to do analysis. It's even better if you've taken a linguistics course, if it's your linguistics professor. If you've never taken a linguistics course, that's totally fine. Any mentor or professor is another great person to ask. But the purpose of the letters of recommendation is somebody who can speak to personal qualities of yours that would make you a good candidate for this position. So usually that's a faculty member. Sometimes that's a boss at your work position. And that would be totally welcome as well. What other questions do y'all have? We've got 12 minutes left, so I'm gonna, if you, as y'all are thinking about what other questions you might have, we got one. Yes, somebody asked, as a first year university student, would it be okay if one of the recommendations is from a high school teacher? And the answer is absolutely yes, as long as they can speak to those qualities. I'm going to turn it over to Anna and Caroline. And I think both of you already spoke a little bit about what you get out of participating in the project. But I'm going to ask you two questions. One, what do you enjoy about participating in this project and doing research with us? And two, this is kind of piggybacking off of one of the questions that we got here. Has there been anything for you that's been difficult about it? So I'm going to go to Anna first.
Yeah, okay. So I'd say it's hard to pick one specific thing that I enjoyed because I truly enjoy the entire thing. I think some of the highlights, just the tops of the waves, have been being able to work with Dr. Sneller and Dr. Wagner and being able to see like the way that their minds work and the way that they are so careful and conscientious with how we interact with the diarists when things come up, and the way that they form the project to be both very like human based in a way. Like, we want to take care of our diarists, we want to protect their privacy, we want it to be something that's a wonderful experience for them, and to just see them pour into the project in that way. Because I think formerly, I guess my impression of research, and I'm not familiar with what research is in like in any other fields really, but my impression of research is that it's like cold. You know what I mean? That it's like there's this distance, and while we have this distance of like respecting our participants' privacy and things like that, we are always there as like this kind of support system to like hear their stories. And just one of the incredible things to me is to see that side of like all the work that everyone's pouring into it, and then to go to the back end and listen to the diary entries. And the number of times I have had diarists come and say, this has been an incredible experience for me, or the way they talk about how it's impactful to be able to just like know that someone's listening. And, you know, just there's that, I guess there's just community and this just beautiful like dynamic between the researchers and the participants. And for me, that's definitely one of my favorite things. As far as it goes difficulty, I would say I would echo a little bit what the other virtual students said. My university is in Grand Rapids, so it's like an hour and a half drive from where I am to Lansing. And I think that this is no fault of anyone's. I think this is just that I love the project so much. And there's times where I'm like, dang, like I wish I could be there in person and participate in person in certain things. But you know, like that's just a part of being online. And I'm thankful that the online piece exists, because that's what's allowed me to participate in the project, you know, because if this online piece didn't exist, I wouldn't have access to it at all. And so I think the tough thing is just I want more, you know what I mean? But, you know, I have no complaints, if that makes sense. So.
Thanks, Anna. And Caroline. You're still here in person in the lab, right?
I would say one thing I've really enjoyed has just been how trusted and mentored I've been by not only Dr. Sneller, Dr. Wagner, but I think everyone on the team. They really treat you like an academic peer. I've never felt like I'm just an undergraduate research assistant. I really always felt so much a part of this. I felt like I've been given responsibilities just like everyone else. That's been incredible, but that's also kind of been the hard thing. It's definitely pushed me out of my comfort zone. I'm taking on things that I never expected I would be taking on as an undergraduate, and, you know, working with real people, real PhDs, like that's kind of incredible and not an experience that most undergraduate students are able to have. And it is difficult and it's scary at times, but like I said, it's pushed me out of my comfort zone and it's helped me to build my confidence and to realize, okay, I can do this. I can hold my own in these kind of groups. And this is something that I want to do and I want to continue being in these circles. So yeah, it's difficult and scary, but very confidence building.
Thank you to both of you. I'm going to stop screen sharing so that people can see our faces. Suzanne.
Yeah, I want to first of all say, as Betsy said earlier in the presentation, that this project, which began at a very difficult time for everybody in March 2020, has been, I think, a really nice experience for me as a faculty member in continually learning from all of the students on this project. It is absolutely a two-way street here. And I think what you would find here too is that our graduate student mentors are extremely capable. They don't just work with REU students in the summer, but they continue to work and mentor undergraduate students throughout the year. Some of them, for example, are working with Caroline at the moment. So I have learned a lot from the students on this group, and I would look forward this summer to learning from yet more students who come to join this project. So that's my first point. My second point, I just want to briefly say that I want to reiterate that you do not need to know a lot of linguistics to join this particular REU. And the research question, which one of our previous participants mentioned as being initially a bit intimidating, there are two ways to think about this. One is you might come in with a specific linguistic interest. Let's say it's phonetics, or let's say it's syntax. And we have a wonderful corpus now of diaries that might allow you to explore a question at any level of the linguistic architecture. So don't feel that maybe because some of our output has been quite phonetics oriented, that this excludes interests in other forms of variation. And secondly, you may have a question that's initially about the project that becomes a linguistic question. So we have a student right now who's not here with us who asked the question, how do our questions work? So the prompts that we send to diarists, how can we optimize them in a way that would produce really great, relaxed, informal, unreflecting speech at the kind of length we would like to have from them? How can we make our questions better? What is it about the syntax of the questions that we should change? Is there something about the wording? And this is becoming a project that now is really into the sort of pragmatics of persuasion, and is looking much more now at modality and discourse pragmatics. So it began as a practical question about the project and became a linguistic question. So you could begin with a linguistic question and apply it to our data, or you could start with our data and end up with a linguistic question. Either of those is fine, and we will help you at every step of the way. I see we have another question.
I'm just going to jump in really quickly and add to that and say, if you don't already have a research question, that is totally fine. They emerge as the REU experience comes along. But also you've got a group of folks here that are like idea generation machines. So if you can't think of if you don't have a question that specifically grabs you, we absolutely have questions that you can do. I saw the chat comment about seeing my cat Maggie, who is an unofficial participant in the Michigan Diaries project. I see we've got a question about would an REU student researcher be able to go in person occasionally? And I will say to that, like I said, our default expectation is that REU students will be in person this summer. But if you have specific questions about how it might work for you personally, reach out to our project email and we can have a conversation about your individual situation. Okay, last opportunity to ask a question. I'm going to give it 30 seconds before I sign off. And now I'm thinking about Olivia's research project about sign-offs. I'm thinking, how should I address y'all? Should I thank y'all? I'll do both. Thank you everyone for coming to our info webinar. We hope to get applications from some of you and hear more from you in the future. And thank you also to our grad student mentors and our undergrad representatives for helping give a window into what it's like to actually participate in the project. So if you have any other questions that we haven't answered, reach out to our project email, and we will be adding these questions to our FAQ list on our website as we go as well. Bye, everyone.